Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. Today, we're running through a bit more of the 5x XP event with Golden Bullet on. Just for fun, I put together an Eclipse Protocol build just to run through this because I figured why not. In case you want to see the build, this is it right here. Feel free to pause, screenshot, whatever. Copy it if you like, but we're going to get going. I actually have not tried this at all yet, so we'll see how this goes. Oh yeah, get the spread going. What I wanted to talk about though, and I figured this would just be a fun little format to do, was a few topics involving Seasons 2.0, some of the stuff that the Division 2 might expect during Year 7 content, which maybe those don't sound too related right now, but hopefully will by the time we get into this a little bit. So, yeah, let's just get to it. Now that PTS Phase 1 has concluded for Title Update 22, of course that's bringing Seasons 2.0, I think a lot of people have... there's been a lot of discussion going on, right, about various different topics involving that update. But one of the big things for Seasons 2.0 specifically is people saying that it hasn't lived up to their expectations because of the content that the system is asking you to play, right? And essentially that comes down to, it's the same stuff that we've been doing for years and years and years. And to that I say this, inherently, I don't think it is wrong or bad that the system utilizes all of the game's existing content. I mean, if anything, that's a smart system, right? To add the maximum amount of variety and replayability as possible. The problem comes in when you consider the fact that we haven't had new content additions, like real new content additions to the game in a long time. I mean, we're approaching the 1 year mark from the last time when we got a true, last big addition to the game with Paradise Lost in Year 5 Season 2. And I do fully believe that had we gotten a system like Seasons 2.0 when Warlords of New York dropped, not only would the existing content in the game had a lot longer of a longevity and a life period before people kind of got bored of it, but it also probably would have been received better, right? Because all that stuff is just simply fresher. So both of those things can be true at the same time, right? Although I do think it is smart for them to design the system to take advantage of all of the game's content, it is also absolutely a fair complaint to say this isn't as exciting as it could be because we've already been playing this stuff for years. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because I think I am more understanding and forgiving of this fact than most. And that's simply that the Division 2 development team, as they stand today, don't have the resources nor capacity to pull off what I think the vast amount of players would want and expect from this franchise. And again, that's not on the players to want the game to provide more, to do better. We all love the game. We want it to do more, to see more. But the reality is that compared to a game like Warframe, compared to a game like Destiny 2, which even though it's just gone through a lot of layoffs, they still have significantly more people working on that game than the Division 2 does. And so for games of this nature, which both need to continue to provide new content experiences to excite players, but also need to consistently rethink and rework a lot of their old systems to keep them relevant and to keep the game fresh and ongoing for years and years and years, that becomes a tough task for a team that has those limited resources, right? And so repeatedly, before Year 6 content kicked off, which is what we're in right now, we heard the devs say, I'll try and see if I can find a clip and overlay it, Vianic saying and other people saying Year 6 is a year of transformation. That is their goal with this year of content. Obviously, we're getting the DLC in the 3rd season, and that's like the big content, but otherwise it's a year of transformation. They rework the endgame, they rework the seasons.
The 6th year, we have big plans for the year. We call it a year of transformation. And it's really about rethinking a lot of the foundations of how do people engage with the game today. So really the life model, the seasons, the access to everything in the game. So there's a lot of changes that are coming throughout the year. And hopefully, once we're done with all those changes, the game is even better than it's been until now, and ready for even more years of content after that.
And from everything we've seen so far in the PTS and from Year 6 so far, they've stuck to that goal. They are transforming the game with this season and laying a new foundation, basically. And so like I said, given that they outlined that that's what their objectives were, given the fact that we know they have limitations in terms of resources, I can fully accept that that's, what we're getting this year, right? But in my opinion, that only works, this whole plan only works, and to leave players without new content for that long, if after this period, i.e. Year 7, if your plan then is to start delivering actual new content on a regular basis. And again, I'm not expecting that we get a new incursion, new maps, new PvP maps, reworks, like all that stuff every single update, because again, it's simply not realistic with where the team is at in terms of resources and all that, right? But this leads me to kind of the other big half of this video that I want to address. What is Year 7's content going to be? Now, part of the reason I bring this up, if you saw, I did a video recently talking about how there seemed to maybe be teases of a new incursion in the Year 6 Season 2 PTS, and whether it was from players' desires to see that, or maybe certain people were misspeaking in terms of how certain it was that that was going to be a thing, but you immediately saw people saying, oh yeah, maybe we'll get stuff in the new incursion, blah, 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 the new incursion. Like, people were just taking it for fact that that's what we were getting, and they were excited, right? People liked Paradise Lost. They want to see more content like that. Reason I bring this up, we got confirmation shortly after I made that video, and once everybody was talking about it on the PTS, that unfortunately is not in the cards right now. That's not something that the devs are working on. I have the quote on my screen. I'm not going to read it, though, when the boss is coming out. There we go. So far, this build is working great, by the way. This is quite fun solo if you want to run something like this during the event. I said that, and then I immediately got grenade launched straight to my death. That was fun. But I will put it up on screen here as I run back to this control point. Daria, the game's community developer, responded to my own video post about that incursion on Twitter, saying anything you find on the PTS should be taken with a grain of salt. Sometimes we work on things and prototypes that will never see the light of day. And that reflects exactly the sentiment and caution I gave everybody in that video. I was like, don't take this for fact, right? Just because we're seeing it doesn't mean that it's confirmed. And it's true, the game development involves a lot of prototyping, a lot of conceptualizing, and that stuff doesn't always come to pass. That's simply how it goes. But here's my thing. We have that comment, and that she replied to other posts as well, basically saying, yeah, it's not happening right now, maybe sometime in the future, but they're not working on it. I don't have a quote for this one, but there's also been several instances where Yannick, in I feel like the past few developer streams, has hinted that they're not really interested at this point in doing more game modes, right? Because they have 3 distinct ones in Summit, Countdown, and Descent. Technically there's 4 with Kenley, but no one plays Kenley. But he's been like, yeah, we have those 3 distinct experiences. We don't really feel like we need to add more to that roster at this point in time. So that's all fine, but again, it brings up the question of, okay, if you're not doing an incursion, if you're not doing more game modes, at least for now, what are you doing? What is Year 7's content going to look like? And I think back to the little end teaser that we had at the Year 5 anniversary thing for the game. I'll play it right after this, where Yannick was like, yeah, this is just Year 6. After Year 6, we got big stuff coming. It's really exciting.
Okay, you good? Got what you wanted?
That was awesome. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. And it's just Year 6, and I really can't wait until we can start telling them about what's coming after with all this.
Because in my mind, here's the reality. The Brooklyn DLC that everybody is so excited for at the end of this year needs to be followed, throughout Year 7 and subsequent updates by replayable new content, right? I really do not believe, and this might suck for some people to hear, that the DLC is going to have the kind of longevity that I think a lot of people are expecting it to be. Like, these types of releases, especially because they've labeled this as a story DLC, don't have the content that I think a lot of people are hoping. I mean, I keep seeing these posts about people saying, I hope we get a new DZ in the Brooklyn DLC. I hope there's a hidden new game mode with it, all this stuff. I really just don't think that's going to be the case. There's going to be some missions. There's going to be some new open world zones. I'm sure that'll come with its own secrets. We'll probably get a hunter puzzle or 2, stuff like that. Hey, what you doing up here? But that's it, right? I really don't think it's going to come with that much more than that, and that might suck for some people to hear, but they've basically been telling us that ever since it was announced in April of 2023. So that's the thing. The DLC's release will be awesome. I mean, it's going to be great to see where the story goes, get all those new missions and experiences, and that new content to populate what we were just talking about with the Seasons 2.0 system. But the updates after that in Year 7, in my opinion, is really what count, because those have to follow up that with some big new additions that make people stay in the game, that make them want to play. I'll say it right now, in my opinion, I don't think that Year 7 can simply be more reworks and more quality of life stuff. If they do that, I will be as critical as anyone else of saying, we gave you the time and the space. I mean, not everyone did. I certainly gave them the time and the space to rework the systems that they felt needed reworking, to do the transformational changes that they said they needed to do, to set up the game for the next few years of content, as we know is generally their plan as we wait for the Division 3 to get all of its work done. But yeah, if after all of this, they're just going to say, it's just more seasonal updates, we're going to keep reworking gear sets, do some of these small changes over time, I just don't think that's going to cut it. And so it'll be interesting to see where things go. Again, this entire conversation we're having right now could be totally premature and unnecessary once we see what the plans are. Maybe they have these ideas for some great new content in Year 7 that we're not considering, that don't involve incursions, that don't involve new game modes. We'll see. I mean, in my opinion, it would be great for them to start going back to just doing more kind of regular game content, which in my mind would be stuff like revamping Kenley College to make that more worthwhile, giving us some new conflict maps, giving us new legendary missions, right? The kind of stuff that already exists in the game, but people just want to play more and, want to have more fun in. We'll see what the plan is. But again, I just kind of felt compelled to talk about this, given we saw the comments of them saying, yeah, no new incursion. We've heard them say before, probably no new game modes for a little while. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then what is coming after all of this? We'll find out. But yeah, like I said, in my opinion, all of this retooling that they've done across Seasons 2.0, one end game, Project Resolve before it. It can't all have been for nothing. There has to be a plan afterwards for how you're going to give players new things to do and keep them engaged in the game. I know there's limited resources, I know all of that, but you've had the time, so let's see what we can come up with. That's most of what I got though, folks. Again, I thought that would be an interesting topic to discuss. I would be very curious to hear your thoughts on this entire matter. If you have any predictions or speculation on anything we went over there, I would love to hear it down below. We've already talked about, Seasons 2.0 a lot, but specifically for Year 7 and that kind of content, what are you expecting or hoping for? Again, given we know the limitations of the team, we're not going to be getting DLCs every 6 months. We're not going to be getting new game modes every update, new incursions. That's just not the reality. But there has to be something, right? And that's the question. What do you think that'll be? If you enjoy videos and discussions like this and you want to see more like it in the future, then I would be greatly appreciative of you clicking that subscribe button if you haven't already. Plenty more coverage and videos coming your way. Of course, we're waiting for news on Phase 2 of the PTS. We'll see what changes they made for back in Phase 1, and plenty more coming up. So, hope to see you around. That is going to do it for me today, though, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.